So what's coming to me to talk about is letting go. Because it's such an intrinsic part of this whole process, this whole journey, this journeyless journey. And first I just want to say that from the standpoint of the identified mind, the thought identified experience, which is an experience that humanity collectively shares. It's kind of hypnosis, stable dissociation of past, future, problems and solutions and so forth from that world, that inner world. Letting go doesn't feel good, it doesn't sound good, it's a hard sell, yeah. But I want to point out why that is. And the why of it is so fascinating because at some point in the process of realization, and I'll talk about this gets corrected. You see through it so clearly that it's not any kind of problem anymore. But to state it simply, the problem is that whole world of thought identification, of seeking, of past, future, moving through time, being someone separate, trying to protect the someone that's separate, trying to get more of what it needs, less of what it doesn't want. The whole thing is actually based on a sense of lack, a sense of not good enough. There's other words for that. Shame, not good enough, lack, something's just wrong with me, or something is just wrong. If you need evidence for that, I don't think anyone in here doesn't know that, probably. But if you need evidence for that, just watch what happens when people do shadow work, when they really get deep into their process, especially when it's somewhat new territory, the deep shadow, when it's kind of new territory to them. They have a lot of that. They often find a lot of doubt, but really personal doubt, like self-doubt. They have a strong sense, or they find a strong sense of not enough, not good enough. Sometimes it's even more acute or more pointed, like self-hatred. I had a friend who's a very smart person, spent his life as a soldier, actually, retired from the military and so forth, had a family, all these things. And when actually it was right before he had an awakening, he said he suddenly realized how much self-hatred he had, and he was totally surprised by it. Like, I had no idea that was in there. How did I not notice I hate myself, right? And he was surprised and he kind of marveled at it. And that was just one of the tremors before the earthquake of awakening for him. It was just one of the things that just suddenly came to consciousness and he was surprised by. There were other things. That's just a recent example I can think of. I've heard this in so many versions. It's very fascinating that we can actually have self-hatred and not know it. That we can have suffering and not know it. That we can personally suffer and not even realize it's happening. Again, probably everyone in here knows what that is, and they're very much in touch with their suffering. And a lot of it may have resolved for many of us, but there is a world of people, the vast majority of people, who really aren't in touch with that, I think. I know I wasn't. There was a point in my life where I really had no idea how much I was suffering, but in retrospect, it was pretty brutal. Like I definitely was. And this talk really isn't to go into all the side effects of that, but the side effects are everything you see in the news and corrupt leadership and people harming their own families and people they love and on and on and on and on and on, right? Unconsciousness. So that's the suffering plus dissociation, not knowing I suffer. So then I take it out on it. It leaks out. That's what happens. It leaks out. It's a word I learned from Bud, one of the facilitators in the work. And he just said it comes out sideways. So what I love about circling is because you can't avoid your own stuff there. You can't bullshit yourself very long. Not in a well-facilitated deep shadow process. And one of the things you see is that, yeah, it does come out sideways. Everybody's getting it around you sideways, right? We've all hopefully been to the place where we realize that, and then now you have actually a chance of stop doing it. Sometimes it's in small ways, and sometimes it's in really big ways, right? That's the unconsciousness. Dissociation. So dissociation, unconsciousness, plus our own personal suffering that we're not in touch with, not aware of, but it's definitely there. It's definitely driving our behaviors, working us like a marionette, right? That's the problem we're addressing here. That's what we're doing. That's what realization's about, in my opinion, in my experience. So again, the underlying sense that something's just fundamentally wrong with me, that is what the ego structure is built on. The self is built on. It's kind of like a mansion with so many rooms, and it's got ugly parts and beautiful parts, and it's just this complex mansion, but it's built on a foundation of shifting sand, really. That's why it's actually not that hard to wake up if you're really willing to let go. If you're willing to let go of the rooms of the mansion and the structure of the mansion and everything that mansion has come to mean for you, and just see that it's actually really not on a very solid foundation at all. Look for the self. Do you find it? Right? That kind of thing. It's not that hard to see that you're not going to find something in the way these thoughts would suggest you are, right? But to really, not a great way to say this, but like establish the realization in that knowing of anatta, of formlessness, of boundlessness, you have to go through that very acute phase of shadow work, that deep shadow stuff that has a lot of shame and uncomfortable feelings and all of it, right? Resistance, lots of resistance. So when we aren't down there, right? When we're up here, when we're in, well, certainly when we're dissociated, when we're in day-to-day thought patterns, and we haven't done a lot of that work, the ego is not interested in hearing about loss, about letting go, really, because it already feels like it doesn't have enough. It always feels like it doesn't have enough. So paradoxically, often the spiritual journey starts with a promise that's kind of a lie, that you're going to get somewhere that's the ultimate cookie. Like, yeah, I know material stuff has failed you. Money didn't make you happy, right? Money didn't make you happy. Relationships didn't make you happy. Whatever, I don't know, getting in the best shape of your life didn't really make you happy. Eating the absolute perfect diet that's like vegan, locally sourced, everything, no soy, no nothing in it at all. Like that didn't make you happy. Why didn't that make you happy? It was supposed to make you happy, right? So you've like exhausted these things, and then you hear about enlightenment. That's the ultimate cookie. Even though you hear me over and over sit up here and say, it's not going to give you anything. It's nothing but what's right here. It's already here. Nothing special. You'll hear me say it over and over, but your mind's like, yeah, but I can't wait till I get it. It's going to be awesome, right? All my problems will be solved. Yeah. So that's, in a sense, it's kind of the ultimate seeking. It's the ultimate thing to seek. It's the ultimate supposed payoff. Now, understand, I joke about that, and I kind of, illustrate that example, but what actually drives the realization process isn't that. That's simply a side effect, okay? This is a bit of an aside, but there is a way of talking about non-duality. You've probably all seen this online, where they really disparage the seeker as if the seeker is like the second-class citizen, right? Oh, the seekers, spiritual seekers, they think they're real and they're not really even there, and at some point, whatever. And so, but I don't, because it's fine. It's a side effect, just like any other side effect of mind, that there's some big goal and so forth. Doesn't mean there's not a process. There's definitely a process. It's just more of a subtractive one than an additive one. It's more deconstructive than constructive, and it's not anything to do with what your mind thinks it is, by definition. So the way I have to talk about letting go, or the way of talking about letting go skillfully, partially just requires me to kind of say everything I just said, that it's not the kind of letting go your mind is going to perceive, right? It is a total loss, but it's not a total loss from the standpoint of, oh God, I already feel completely useless and worthless. I already feel like I don't have anything that makes me happy, and now I'm going to lose everything, right? That sounds terrible. But what's the total loss is the total loss of the thing that made you feel terrible in the first place. That's what you lose. And it will feel like a whole lot as you're losing it, because the tendency to grasp it is still there. The tendency to keep it, hold it, is still there. Sometimes it'll feel good. Sometimes when you're, like, if you're going through something really miserable, it will feel good to let go. It will feel good when the illusions of life fall away. And this is why tragedy, some people in here have gone through very difficult tragedies, right? Loss of like very close people, things like that, right? That is one of the most auspicious times to wake up. And many people do wake up as a result of that. Or that starts the process for people of really looking into, well, what's this all about? Yeah. So when your hand is forced, sometimes you're forced to really see that everything is always kind of going. Everything is kind of disappearing, going away, truly transient, yeah. And that opens you to something, and often it will surprise people when all of a sudden they went from feeling the worst grief of their life to feeling like, whoa, it's like I have nothing left to lose, and now there's this joy. Like, why is there joy that the trees are moving? Doesn't make sense for any paradigm I've ever had about myself or the world, but it is very clear. There's just total peace here. I don't need anything but this. Never had anything but this, right? So sometimes life forces your hand, really pulls the rug, and the magnitude of the relative loss leads you into a kind of communion with the natural falling away that I'm talking about here today. Falling away, falling away, falling away. Yeah. Also, I want to say that it's not something you have to do. If you try to do falling away, if you try to do grief or do loss or do letting go, it's just another version of holding on, usually, right? Because again, the intention to do it, what you think you're going to get out of it, even if you haven't fully explored it, is fueled by that sense of not good enough, right? Again, when you recognize that that's really underlying the self-structure, a sense of not good enough is intrinsic to feeling like a separate self. How can you feel separate from everything and feel completely okay? You won't. But you can cover it up. Again, dissociation and seeking and thought, mental activity. So then what is this falling away? What is it about? And I don't want to give you a different paradigm to frame it in to make it feel okay, because that's kind of like the holding on in disguise of letting go. I don't want to give you another coping mechanism built out of that sense of not enough. So rather, I'm just going to talk about it as directly as I can and just notice it's there. That's it. All this stuff is about is noticing what's here and what's not here. Noticing what's what, as my Zen teacher used to say. This is just about seeing what's what. It's kind of a cool way of saying it. Yeah. So the falling away. I'll say a few things about it. Actually, this came to me as I was listening to Chelsea's beautiful guided meditation. It was a wonderful guided meditation into non-dual, really into non-dual through sound. And when I say into non-dual, I just mean if you really hear what she's pointing to, if you really hear one sound of a bell, it is non-dualistic. It is. There is no here or there to it. And it is formless. It has no form, but it's also bright. It's also very intimate, right? So, so that's where I got the idea to talk about the falling away, because I can feel it all the time. And it's the only way, I'm trying to kind of put this back and reframe it through the mind a little bit, because the mind does look at that big spiritual cookie at the end of the road, that what you want. And a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, at some point for everyone, that will also be reinforced by a direct experience, including awakening, right? Awakening is like, whoa, I never knew I could feel this good. I never knew I could feel this fluid. I never knew I could let go this much. I never knew life was just okay, and everything is just okay. It's so wonderful. But of course, then we get re-entangled in the mind for a while, and we start seeking that. It's like, why don't I feel that right now as the shadow work is coming, right? So I do want to reframe this a little bit through the mind and just say, you're not wrong. When people have that big shift, the first shift, they often do experience non-duality for a while, but it's transient. It's not stable because the clinging of the mind is still strong. It's just subsided for a while, but it comes back until you really do that shadow work, and then it can calm again. So that non-dual taste is like so beautiful. It's the best taste. It's one taste. It's indescribable, right? And to say that's the cookie at the end of the road, it kind of is. Like, it really is there. There really is this experience of profound intimacy and mystery. And you'll never separate that from the letting go. You'll never separate that from the falling away. They are the same thing. They just are. The bright, intimate, radiant, all-encompassing, engulfing experience, you could say maybe the feminine aspect, and the total dissolution, the falling away, essenceless nature, you could say the masculine aspect if you wanted to. These are one and the same. There's no masculine and feminine here. Or you could say they're in kind of perfect harmony, but they're inseparable. Definitely inseparable. The ninth Oxford picture talks about this beautifully. I observe the forms of integration and disintegration, and I am ever blissful. So perfect. It's right on the money. Where do you find the forms of integration and disintegration? Not in some crazy state of samadhi necessarily. You can, but you see it in the leaves. You see it in the light, right there. You hear it in the sound. It's there. It's here. Now, when I say you hear it, that's just a conventional way of saying it. There's no one hearing it. It's just the sound. That is what the non-dual insight is, non-dualistic. It is what the insight of empty clarity is, empty brilliance. Empty meaning there's no essence there, which you don't want it to be there, because if you think there is, you'll hold on to it. You'll seek it. You'll grasp it. You won't want it to go away. You'll think it could go away. How can endlessly falling away go away? It can't. How can intimacy go away? It can't, because they are the same thing. Paradox, yeah, but it is the case. And it's so obvious. That's the beauty of this. It's just so simple, so obvious, and ordinary. So that's about as directly as I can talk about it in words. But I also want to talk about some implications of that falling away. It's one of the tenets of Buddhism, one of the Dharma seals of Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism. It's also in the suttas in a slightly different form, but the word transience, transient nature, impermanence, another word. There's a very simple and kind of conventional way to understand it. I mean, anyone who hears transient nature, hears impermanence, probably gets it. And that is true. There's that component to it that it's just like, yeah, everything's changing constantly. Nothing will ever stay completely the same. Things are decomposing. Things are changing forms. Like, yeah, that's all true. However, what I want to point to as an implication of what I just was talking about, the integration, disintegration, harmony, is something that happens in deeper realization, particularly non-dual and beyond, like no self-realization.